Well, it was a very highly anticipated speech. Other than Rishi's speech tomorrow, in which we may or may not find out what's happening with HS2, something that has overhung this conference in the most extraordinary and I think terribly mismanaged way. But Suella Braverman's speech was heavily anticipated by the members. Stop the boats has become one of the absolutely key pledges from this government. And Suella Braverman, and I've got to give her credit for one thing, her public speaking style is much, much better than it used to be. She had a certain confidence on the stage this afternoon, and here was her really big line.
The Illegal Migration Act, which will come into force in the coming months, now means that the only route to asylum in the UK is a legal route. The Act means that those arriving illegally will be detained and removed back to their home country if possible, or to a safe third country like Rwanda. But all of this is ultimately a question of political will. And be under no illusion, we will do whatever it takes to stop the boats and deter bogus asylum seekers.
So there we are. Be under no illusion. We will do whatever it takes. The trouble is, we heard that from Priti Patel, we heard it from Boris Johnson, we're hearing it, of course, from Rishi Sunak, and now stated very clearly by Suella Braverman. But was there actually any substance in the speech? Was there any real positive message? And the big one that everyone was waiting for was, of course, the ECHR. Yes, the European Convention on Human Rights. I'm joined by GB News reporter Charlie Peters, who listened to the speech and has been discussing this with Tory close insiders shortly afterwards. How did the faithful take this speech?
Well, it was a very personal speech, I thought. The opening when she said, you know, the winds that took my family to Britain, the winds of migration, have now become a hurricane, really tying back to that personal story. She criticised the Labour Party for saying that they were not doing enough to oppose the dereliction of national sovereignty and the degradation of our borders, which was expected to criticise Labour in that way. What was more interesting, in fact, was that she went on to criticise her own party, saying that too many in the Conservatives were squeamish when it came to dealing with the issue of migration. She also said that many feared being smeared as racist, and that's why they didn't speak up. She said that she would do anything to deal with this problem. And in that discussion on the legalistic issue, she said that the Human Rights Act, she branded it as the Criminal Rights Act, saying that it turbocharged issues whereby bogus asylum claims rattled on for many years and that criminals were not able to be deported. But it wasn't just what she did speak about. As you've mentioned, it was what was omitted from the speech.
Well, that was my feeling too.
The European Convention of Human Rights, many people speaking to GB News this afternoon saying that they were expecting a comment on that after it was hyped so much in the week ahead of conference. And of course, we've heard about this split in the cabinet between those who are in favour of leaving the convention and those who are more shy, perhaps even squeamish on the issue. Now, allies close to Ms Braverman told me this afternoon that they obviously couldn't make a speech on the ECHR considering the current political storm, and they said that the comments about the Human Rights Act were the next best thing. At the end of the speech, beyond migration, there was also a reference to sex issues and dealing with prisoners. And that's an interesting speech, and many commentators will be interested in how they deal with prisoners changing their gender or changing their name to escape restrictions.
Well, certainly after Scotland, that is a very real political issue. But this is the big one. I mean, frankly, what she said around the Human Rights Act, it's all a bit mealy-mouthed, isn't it? Because the Human Rights Act, of course, was the incorporation of ECHR into British law. Before I go to Sir Ian and get his reaction to this, I was very struck today that she came across, frankly, as a toothless Tory attack puppy. It's all well and good playing up the rhetoric, but we've heard that again and again and again. I didn't see a single solution in this speech to illegal immigration, and she barely touched on it. She barely touched on legal immigration, where the population of this country is exploding, despite the fact we have the Brexit powers to control the numbers. I thought the whole thing was very poor, very disappointing, and it plays in, for me, to a bigger theme. You see, I can't see a big message coming out of Manchester to the country.